All right, very excited bringing this guest back, a favorite of the podcast, one of my favorite human beings to talk to, an amazing comedian. You guys all know and love him, the one and only Mike Lebovitz. What's up, Lebo?
What's up, Joe? It's good to see you. We're both in our basements. Yours is cleaner than mine.
Yeah, but yours looks like it gets a little more natural light in there on the sides. I got some propped up lighting around me.
Yeah, no, this is all natural light, baby. You can see all of the sheen of the. I thought I could get away without taking a shower before the podcast. No one would know, and now I'm looking at my picture and I'm like, oh, they all know. And now I just said so they definitely know now.
They definitely know now that you're a stinky boy. Lebo's known for being a stinky boy. It's part of his shtick, but it's honest.
Yeah. I usually tell them, most comedians, you can see them or hear them. I'm a treat for all the senses, Yeah.
Hey, you know what though, man? I'm realizing something lately. So my 4-year-old son started preschool last Monday. This is week 2.
Holy shit! Congrats.
Yeah, man. It's cool. He's adjusting very well. It's long days, full day, which is crazy to me for 4-year-old preschool. But I'm understanding a lot of times and why you didn't always shower, because I had a day the other day where I didn't shower because, I had to set my alarm for like 6 a.m. to get his, I got to get his breakfast ready. I got to get him ready. And then my other 2-year-old son, he comes for the ride. So I'm waking up 2 kids and, it's very early in the morning and I'm like, fucking, I'm skipping a shower. And then you do it one day thinking, one day, no big deal. And then the next morning you're like, again, I'll put some deodorant on. I'll brush my teeth. I'll get my hair wet. You know what I mean? I'm doing the old Polish shower, as they say. No offense, Polish listeners. And it starts to make sense why you skip the shower here or there, because you're just too damn tired and who's trying to impress anyway.
Absolutely. And I used to it's a funny thing, like when you don't have kids, it's like you think you can bust someone's balls who does have kids about how like disheveled they are, or like how smelly or gross or fat or whatever. And it's just like it's just like these people don't understand that they are children. And so like if you don't have children, like you are a child. And so what you're saying to me, like you don't know what you're talking about. You can think you're assassinating my character, but really like all you have to do all day is like wake up, jack off, play video games, and take a shower. And then you think you know something about life. You don't know anything. You're a child. So you would always just roll right off my back.
Yeah, you always give a good nugget of wisdom there. You're a child until you have children. Also, by the way, waking up, jacking off, and playing video games, that's pretty great. I missed that a little bit.
Yeah, no, being a kid is great. You don't have to do anything. But it's fun. But I mean, it's like you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we don't. And I was like that. I remember giving you a hard time sometimes when you would be smelly. I remember going from, we'd be a comedy bar together and then trying to walk over to Walgreens because you needed deodorant that you
I had to be Febreze before the show.
Yeah, we'd Febreze you. You used to wear this checkered, it looked like a tablecloth material.
Restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah, it looked like an Italian restaurant's tablecloth, and that was like your collared shirt.
Yeah.
And you would literally have stink lines coming off of it. You were like a cartoon.
Well, see, here's the thing. So when you don't do your laundry, you'll pick up a dirty piece of attire, right? A shirt or whatever, and like it doesn't seem like it's dirty. And then you put it on. You smell it. It's like, oh, okay, it's fine. And then you put it on, and then your own body heat reactivates the smell in the clothes. So like you go out the door and you realize what you've done, but now it's too late because you're out, so you can't fix it. So that would happen to me from time to time. Yeah,
I've been there. And here's some advice for everyone listening, some value you could take away. I now have a kit that I keep in my car. I got a little deodorant. I have some mouthwash. Hand sanitizer, which I think everyone's been carrying with them anyway.
Sure.
Some of this was because, I sneaked some cigarettes here or there and I wanted to cover it up from the wife,
Yeah.
Be very she doesn't listen to the podcast, by the way. I could admit to murdering a whole family of people and she would never know. She does not listen to the podcast. But, by the way, if you're one of those people who sneak them, your fingers, it's all over the fingers. So, and then the thing I had to add, I got a little tiny scissors because, dude, my nose hairs have been out of control lately.
Yeah.
And as soon as I cut one, 3 longer ones come back. It's embarrassing. And I just don't, Yeah, I hit 30. Like I'm 36 now, so a couple years ago, I think it's really been just out of whack. You got a
Yeah,
mustache though, so they might blend in with you, huh?
no, I don't know. I mean, I see them and they look unruly, and I scissors. I should try that. I yank them out, and it hurts. It hurts, but it's like there's something like purifying about the pain because they have these like you pull out a nose hair and it's like white at the root. It's like it's got
Yeah.
like a little bulb at the bottom of it, and it I mean, it's really you're yanking something that really wants to stay where it is. And yeah, I mean, it's almost like the closest I get to like a victory in battle or something is like yanking a nose hair out by its root.
Your eyes water up. I've done it. Or a few times where I'm like, oh my God, I'm crying now.
Yeah, it's like right. You get in touch with your feelings. It's good.
It's crazy.
But that's a smart idea, having the kid in the car. I mean, I definitely always carry deodorant in my car. I mean, I sleep in my car a lot. I have a pillow in my car.
Yes, everyone, you need to follow Lebo on TikTok. Lebo gives great little tidbits on life, just tons of wonderful life hacks, plus wonderful comedy. And the life hacks are comedy. You are a legendary car napper. Can you explain to the average listener who might not understand what I mean by Lebo being a car napper?
Well, I mean, so like I sleep in my car.
That's simple to explain.
Yeah. It's pretty easy. So like, but the reason is because I have kids, right? So like the kids will, they wake up early and they want something, and like daddy was out working last night. So, the car is always there. And the nice thing about the car is, you can recline the seat and you can take it wherever you want to go, so which is usually just, down the block or away somewhere, where you can't be interrupted. But I refer to my car as my mobile nap chamber. And then I give, I do online. I've actually took the summer off because I was trying to be really present with my family. I took the summer off of social media, but they went back to school today. So as of today, I'm back, and I give, I just sort of give advice about, there's different things that come up, car naps in different kind of weather. Do you want to leave the engine running? Do you want to, do you want the windows down? How do you want to, we always want to park in the shade. And one tip that I'll just give for free is, if you're parking in the city and you want to take a nap in a city, if you park in a no parking zone and you're asleep in your car, you're going to be fine. But if you park in a no standing zone, even if you're in your car asleep, you can still get a ticket. So I just want everyone to know that. No parking, green light; no standing, red light.
Okay, that's a pretty good tidbit there.
Yeah.
Have you ever had someone like bang on the window and be like, "Hey, wake up"?
I've had people like honk at me because they want to park in my spot. So that's another thing too, is like you have to make sure that you don't have your foot on the brake. If you have the engine, say it's summertime, you're having a summertime car nap, you got to have the engine on, you got to have the AC running. Okay, you have to put it in park, put the parking brake on. I mean, obviously, always put it in park if you're going to be sleeping in your car, but put the parking brake on. Take your foot off the brake. It's very natural to just like leave your foot on the brake while you're napping in your car, but then your brake lights are going to be on, and then everyone who comes by and wants your parking spot is going to honk at you to see if you're leaving. So that's very important.
That is important. It's tough when you see a car like on a street, a residential street, or even a busier street. I have a thing that really does drive me nuts. If you are in a crowded parking lot, because one of my favorite comedy clubs, the Improv out in Schaumburg, Illinois, which is part of the Woodfield Mall, which I believe is like the 4th biggest mall in the country. It's pretty huge.
Keep sliding down that list every time I hear it. Give it a number though. Used to be first and then second and then.
Well, I know Mall of America was always kind of number 1, but it was top 3. But I think it slid down the list. Who knows?
They're all in China. All the biggest malls are probably in China right now. But anyway.
Yeah, maybe the biggest in the country. Then you're right. Okay, so
it's a big ass mall.
Yes. Whenever I do, I feel like I get booked there like twice a year, which I'm very grateful for. But one weekend is always in December. And the Christmas shopping season is insane at this mall. And you can't find parking. Right. So like, I'll be going to the gig and I'm like, I got to get a spot here. And I can't stand the people who get to their car and they I understand you got to warm up your car a little bit, but there are some people where I'm like, are you responding to people? Are you catching up with correspondence? What are you doing? Emails in there? Because I'm now waiting for a considerable amount of time for you to get the fuck out of that spot.
Right.
That I can't stand.
You're trying to go to work, and here's Lebo fucking taking a nap. Yeah, I understand.
It's car nappers like you. They just did a lot of Christmas shopping. They're not ready to go back to their family. Maybe the in-laws are in town, and they're just hitting snooze.
But you got to, yeah, I know, and I understand it's frustrating. But it's always valuable to examine the other person's perspective. So yeah, they're annoying, but they're not there to annoy you. They have their own story about estrangement from their family, or fantasies about estrangement from their family, or what have you. So I think that's the key with anger in general, is to like take into account the other person's perspective.
That's true. You know what? I like that too, because I could segue into this. A lot of people, longtime listeners, know that I've been working on my anger. I'm notorious in some circles for having a bad temper, which I've always said, hey, look, there's a difference between having a bad temper and being like an angry person, because I don't consider myself an angry person. I consider my default setting to be kind of like a happy, silly guy, who then just snaps. That's the bad temper. But like an angry person is like some racist who thinks the government's out to get them, and they're like living in their crazy world. Like that's like walking around with real
sort of
resentment,
red-faced, muttering to themselves all the time. Yeah. No, you're a very laid-back guy, but then you do get these like sudden rushes of anger, which can be either hilarious or terrifying depending on the context.
Yeah, I know. It's a real fine line. Some people be like, I really enjoyed that. And other people who are like, you need fucking help, dude. That was awful.
Well, it's
poker night.
I mean, it's like watching you on stage. Like, I think a lot of your comedy comes from stuff that you're angry about, right?
Yes,
something that made you angry, and you wrote a series of jokes about it, and that actually helps you process the anger, probably, right? But then you sort of recreate that emotional state on stage when you do the bit, and it's very funny, right? But then I have also seen other times where you have like a literal like anger meltdown on stage, and it sort of like starts being similar. But then at some point, when it becomes clear that it's real, it turns into, then it's something else. Now it's like, oh shit, Joe is angry, instead of like, oh shit, Joe's pretending to be angry, or every now and then I've pulled it off where I'm like, oh, I was legit angry, but the audience thought it was part of the act. Okay.
But for the most part, you guys, people who know me well enough know, I remember doing a show once where I was legit fucking pissed. And my younger sister was there with some friends, and I like threw the microphone down in anger to be like, I'm walking off this fucking stage. Fuck all this garbage. Because it was a show where like nobody was really running the show, and I people there to see me, and it was like drunks were wandering into the room, and everything was just bad. And I remember after I spiked the mic down, I picked it up and was just like, I can't believe you guys all bought that. And then the audience kind of laughed a little, and then well, they started to get it, and then I was able to do a joke or two to kind of salvage the whole set. But I remember my sister being like, you fooled them, you didn't fool me. I know you were really pissed.
Right. So it's a funny thing about like when things go off the rails on stage, like this is just from my own experience. It's like, say there's a heckler, or just like something weird is going on in the room. I've noticed that, like, for me personally, like as long as I don't get angry, I can say anything and it's okay, and people will laugh. I can use the C word. I can say all of the worst possible things. But as long as like it's not coming from a place of anger, the audience will go with it and they'll laugh because they understand that it's like pretend anger or whatever. But then if I actually do get angry or rattled on stage, it's almost like there's nothing that I can say. The audience will just like clam up right away, because they can sense, I think, that energetic emanation from the performer like way more astutely than they even know that they can. They're like picking up on stuff they don't even know they're picking up on. And so it's almost like the words that you say don't really matter. They're receiving something from you at like a more base level. Do you feel that at all, or is that just me?
I do feel like that. And you're right. Sometimes the words don't matter. I've listened to playbacks of sets where I'm like, I totally messed up those words, to the point where if you read it, it means something different, but they were following along, and with the energy and the moment, whatever you're illuminating, they still laughed when they were supposed to laugh. It's almost like there was something once where I saw I was getting passed around the internet where it's like, read this and find the mistake, and nobody could find the mistake. even though the mistake was then obvious once it was pointed out because everyone knew the intention of what the post was or whatever.
Oh, well, that's usually the tricks where it'll say like on a different line, it'll say and twice or something like that. There's a lot of those kind of tricks. Yeah.
That's an example I think I was looking for. But yeah, dude, you're right. I honestly, I had one time where a few of the comedians, some of our friends, I think like Marty DeRosa and a few people saying like, dude, you handled that amazing because the old you would have snapped and it would have gotten really bad, but you like took care of that heckler or that whoever was disrupting the show or whatever the situation was. There was a time at the Laugh Factory, I was doing the late show, so it's, and I was going up, I think last. And so it was almost like, 1 a.m. at this point. And a newer comic, this dude, Alex, who goes up now, he's really funny, but he was still pretty new at the time. He'd done a joke about cancer. The thing is, though, he had cancer and he beat it. And he was talking about his experience with cancer. So he's allowed to make that joke.
Right.
I come up like a comic or two later, or maybe I was the very next comedian. And right before I could even say hello to the audience, like I'm taking the mic out of the stand, this woman who was maybe third row and loud so the whole crowd could hear her was like, don't make any fucking cancer jokes before I could say anything. And I didn't know he made, I then found out through the course of talking to her and then the comics yelling in the back about the cancer joke, because I was like, what the fuck? What a weird ass thing to say.
Yeah. Like, how did she know you were about to do 20 minutes on cancer?
That was she ruined the whole set. I had cancer, Holocaust, abortion, like all of it. And she just screwed me over. But no, of course not. But I remember just being like, what the fuck? And then someone yelled out like, Alex did cancer joke. And I'm like, Alex had cancer. So what the fuck? And then it was just such a thing where she was getting loud. I just kept calm. And I remember something in my head being like, just chill, let her hang herself. Meaning she'll keep saying dumb shit and the audience will take your side. She even busted out her phone. No, I think I did a joke about like the murder rate in Chicago. And then she like took out her phone and I'm like, you're filming me now? Is that what you're doing? She's like, yeah, you think the murder rate is funny. You think murders in Chicago are hilarious. I'm like, where the fuck did you pick that up from the joke? She wasn't listening and she was trying to get me. And so while she was filming me, I was like, here's my fucking name, Joe Kilgallon. I'm saying my website. I'm saying all this shit because I know if she tried to share it, people would probably just be on my side. And I think Marty DeRosa was hosting and he came on the stage being like, man, having a kid has chilled that man out. If you would have done that just a year and a half ago, he would have called you a cunt 7 times out of his first 8 words. Like I was just like, oh God, which is very true. So there's something about, I was a kid before I had kids. It goes right back to your thing, Lebo.
Yeah. Absolutely. Dude, crowds are tough, man. Like I just did the Comedy Bar like last month. It was the first time I had headlined a club since, in like a year and a half or whatever. I just like, I hadn't been doing stand-up and then I started doing stand-up again, but I was just doing short sets in New York. And then that was the first time I was like, oh shit, I have to do like 40 minutes or whatever. And at first I was like, I was worried about it. I was like, am I going to be able to do this? And I like went through like jokes and like put together a set. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll do this. And then I went up the first night and I was like, oh, I got this. Yeah, this is easy. It's no problem. And then late show Friday night came and there was this bachelorette party, like sitting like right up front. And they were just totally checked out, just like having their own conversation at the table the whole time, but very loudly so that I couldn't hear myself think. And then like, so they're talking and then everyone else in the crowd starts talking about how they're talking. And it was just, it's just like chatter everywhere. And I couldn't right. And I couldn't, and I realized that I was like, oh shit, like, okay, like part of the skill is like remembering your jokes and saying them well. But there's also this whole other part of it. And it's like, I don't remember how to do this. Like I couldn't remember how to deal with that. I think there used to be a time where I would have been able to do it. And hopefully there will be again, although I just like kind of don't even want to deal with that bullshit anymore. But part of me is like, am I too old for this shit? Like, I don't want to be babysitting bachelorette parties. I'm like, I'm over it. I want to just do shows for people who want to see the show.
Which I think is totally fine to do. I've been at the stage where, the pandemic, missing, not being able to do what we love for that long a period of time was, the first wave, I was like, we're all grounded. Yeah, whatever. Then like things opened up a little bit and then it closed up again. And then that was just like, because when it opened up a little bit, I've probably said this on the podcast before. We all felt like, drug addicts where we're like, oh, we got that needle back in us. No, we want more. We're dying for it.
Are you talking about before the vaccines or after? You're talking about before the vaccines.
Before, like, I don't know how New York was, but in Chicago, everything was closed basically from, second week of March all the way till August. And then in like August, they let Laugh Factory, Zanies, and, like all these clubs open up at like 35% capacity or something. So it was real small crowds. Sometimes the shows were like, why are we even doing this? But some of the shows were really fun, and we did some outdoor rooftop shows and some, other things, and people were doing comedy shows in like backyards. And so you started to feel like a sense of, oh, this is good. This is great. And then that got taken away right around October of 2020. And, cause the waves got out of control again. And then things didn't open up kind of officially again until March. But anyway, the point I was trying to make with that was that, like, it made me realize how short life is, to the point where, how some people are like, oh, I got to reach out to friends I haven't talked to in a while. It made me think life is so short. No, there's a reason I haven't talked to them. Okay. I gotta keep my circle tighter and be more appreciative of those people. And the same with comedy shows. It's like, it used to be, oh, I'll do a show anytime, anywhere. I'm perfecting my craft, and I want to perform in front of adverse conditions, and I want the challenges, and I want to be everywhere. And now it's like, fuck that room. I'm not going there. Right. Yeah. I don't want to do that show. That show sucked the last time I did it. Those people are dumb. I'm not doing that. And you start to get to that point because you value your time. Your time is so, that's the most valuable commodity if we haven't learned anything from these last 18 months and change.
Yeah, dude, I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, it's like, yes, on the one hand, it does make you want to, I mean, just, that idea that this time is finite. And for me also, like, I turned 40 during the pandemic too. So it's like, there's like that, it's like, oh shit, I'm halfway done, but I think part of it comes with aging, but also just like that sense of reflection of like, like, we only have so much time. Let's be smart with how we use it. Let's not just like throw shit at the wall and see what sticks, like, let's like choose what part of the wall should have feces on it and put shit there specifically, and I've been also thinking about, just like, being smarter with my money, like, right. Like, rather than just like not thinking about money, like, no, thinking about money and like trying to make more money than I spend, and then trying to save that money or whatever, just like trying to be smarter with my money. And then when you realize that time is money, which it is, then that also means that you have to be smart about how you use your time, because it actually means the same thing. And I had never really put those two things together. Like, I've always thought, I should be smart with my time, and I should be smart with my money, but I'll get to it when I get to it. And then realizing that those two things are actually the same thing was sort of like a realization that I had just like a week or two ago. When thinking about this kind of shit, it's like, why do I want to spend my time dealing with, like a drunk bachelorette party? Like, I just don't want to. And also, like, why should I had this like vacation that I planned with some people that I like. It's like, it cost me a ton of money to go there, and then it like totally sucked. And then I was like, why am I? And so I set aside all this time and all this money to do this thing that I didn't even really want to do, but I had agreed that I had done. And it's just like, just like, it feels so good to just be like, oh, I just like don't ever have to do that again,
Yeah, the great philosopher Lady Gaga said that there is a lot of power in saying no. There really was a viral clip of her talking. She was in some interview, and she talked about she felt like she gained a lot of, like, she got herself back by learning how to say no to things. Like, no, I don't want to go to that. No, I won't. You know what I mean? Just like, and it's, a lot of people associate no with you being a bad person, you being a dick. That's not the case. You could say no nicely, of course. Like, people who know me, listen to this podcast, know I'm a huge Cubs fan. I started to do a daily Cubs podcast for this big sports podcast network called Locked On Cubs. And it was great for a while. And then the time commitment of it became way too much. It was taken away from this podcast, which is still my number one baby. And, I took an August hiatus from this podcast. And then it was also taken away from all this other stuff I wanted to do. And as much as I love the Cubs, and the Cubs were something I leaned into more during the pandemic because there was no stand-up, I want to be a great stand-up comedian. I don't want to be some gigantic Cubs commentator. I then had to tell myself, you know what I mean? Like doing it on the side and popping on the local sports radio station to talk about the Cubs here or there and throwing out some tweets. That's all good and fun. But I want to be a fan. Like and then I became a commentator and a Cubs pundit, and people would tag me being like, Joe, what do you think of this new move? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. Like, you know what I mean, thank you. I appreciated the people like my opinion. I really did. But then it just became so much to the point where I'm like, what am I doing here? Yeah. And it reminded me of this fucking Will Smith interview. I'm just, by the way, Lady Gaga, Will Smith. These are my new. These are
the greats of Western civilization. Yes,
these are the masters of Western civilization. Will Smith said something in an interview where it's like, don't have a plan B because all it does is take away from your plan A. And I don't even think that's his quote. I think he was quoting.
No, I think I've heard that from David Mamet. And I don't even know if he was the first one who said it, but yeah.
Yeah, Will Smith definitely wasn't. And now that I think about it, it might have been Confucius. Who knows? I don't know if Confucius.
Right. Yeah.
No, you know, Confucius said that I believe Will Smith quoted in the same interview. A person who says they can and a person who says they can't are usually right. Which I kind of like that one. You know? Because I know some people, a mutual friend of ours who won't name on air, I was telling him, I'm like, we should be trying to do this. And he was just like, I don't think we could do that. And I'm like, well, you got this defeatist attitude before you even try. So what's the point? You know?
No, that's sort of one of my stock lines is whenever somebody suggests that they can't do something, I always say like, yeah, well, not with that attitude, you can't. You know, I think it's true. You know,
it is true. It does sound like you're being a little bit like, you know, oh, sure. Not with that attitude. You're not like, you know, it sounds like a teacher, but we forget sometimes teachers are pretty good, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, we hated them for trying to help us.
They're not all dumb bitches ruining recess, you know?
I mean, yeah, most of them were, but they were doing it for our own good. I mean, that's part of the thing when you become a parent too, is you're just like, oh, like you weren't doing this to be a pain in the ass. You were doing this so that like I would be a better person. And that, you know, that comes back to the, recognizing the other person's perspective as the basis of, you know, their anger when you're angry, right? It's like the childish view of the world is to interpret everything as like directed at you. But, you know, really everyone else is a complete being that has their own purpose for doing what they're doing. And if you can see what that is, you may or may not agree with it, but it gives you a lot more perspective.
Yeah, I'm trying to have more of that. Like I saw someone post the other day about, they're trying to be funny, but it was something like, I don't know, they shared some dumb meme where it's, you know, wearing a mask in your car is like, you know, wearing a condom to go to sleep or something. I don't know. It was kind of a dumb thing. And here's what I've noticed though, because you'll see a lot of people be like, you see these idiots who wear masks in their cars when they're by themselves. And I'm like, I think a lot of it's, I've caught myself, you know, you run into a grocery store to get a couple things, you go back into the car, you're driving, you're like, oh, I got my mask on still. I didn't even realize. And then you take it off or whatever. And then I realized, oh, I just drove by a bunch of people who probably think, well, look at this fucking idiot, piece of shit wearing a mask in his car. And it's like, no, dickhead, I'm running errands. I forgot to take it off. I know I don't need to wear a mask in my car. Okay, but why are you being such a judgy little piece of shit? I think everyone needs to stop being such judgy.
They think we're going to be like, oh, I better wear a mask or I'm going to give COVID to myself. Like, I mean,
that's what they
think we're thinking. Yeah. No, or maybe it's an Uber driver. They just drop somebody off or whatever.
Yeah. Or maybe you just forgot to take it off or whatever the fuck the reason is. I don't know.
Or maybe you know like they're ugly as shit and they don't want to see their face in the mirror and finally they have an excuse.
Yeah. Dude, I actually really kind of like the mask in a sense because I wear a hat and then I wear the mask. Dude, I'm incognito. And it's not that I don't want people thinking that I'm worried about people recognizing me as a comedian. I still live on the part of the city I grew up in. So there was a stretch of time where I would run into a Dunkin' Donuts and run into someone I know and run into like anywhere and you bump into someone you know. And sometimes it's fun to bump into someone you haven't seen in a long time. You're like, hey, how the fuck are you? And other times it's like, oh, shit. All right. And it's different nowadays. I was trying to explain this to my dad who's not on social media. I'm like, if you ran into and he's in his 60s, but I'm like, if you ran into someone you knew from high school, you wouldn't mind chatting a little bit. The problem is the people I run into from high school or grade school or from some job I used to have, I know their opinions on things because of social media. I became Facebook friends with them or whatever, and I know how they are now. So when I bump into them, there's no fun catching up. There's usually, I know you still suck, and now I have to see you face to face. So with the mask on, I had it once, dude. I was at a Target and someone yelled Kilgallon. I kept walking. It felt great.
And that's a version of Lady Gaga saying no.
Yeah, it is.
You
It's
said
just, I
no
just
to
kept
your
going.
own identity. Like, that is not, I am not Joe Kilgallon today.
Fuck
I
yeah.
say no to Joe Kilgallon in this Target.
Everyone practice saying no. It feels good. Let me ask you this.
You know
Lebo.
what? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh no,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say with the mask, I sometimes have this experience of I'll meet somebody when we're both wearing masks, and then like as the vaccinations have rolled on or whatever, like you'll see them without a mask, and I think it's interesting. They never look like what you thought they would look like. Like their lower face is always different than you thought it was going to be. And I just think it's fascinating. Like there's this one girl I met her like 6 times, and then I saw her without her mask, and I was like, oh, that you have a much more prominent chin than I would have guessed, or what, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, that's all.
Dude, think about the dating scene out there, man. You are really putting a lot of money on, from the nose to the hairline, of how good looking someone's face could be.
Mm-hmm. But it's kind of nice
too.
Like you get to meet people with just their eyes, and you have this sort of like more pure interaction of, just pure window to the soul back and forth. And it's like less about like what the total shape looks like. And then you take off the mask and it's like, okay, but you already know this person now. So it's, I don't know. It's just a weird thing.
Yeah. I feel bad for people with shitty eyes. This is not a good time.
Not a good time to have shitty eyes. That's right. Yeah. If you have a lazy eye or you have your cross-eyed, no, this is not your era. You were not built for COVID.
So you got nice warm eyes. You got really, your eyes, what's the word I'm looking for? They're brown, which I
sparkle.
hate. No, they're not brown.
No,
what are
they're
hazel?
Not brown. They're green. They're hazel, green.
Hazel
blue.
Green. I like that. But no, you got like kind eyes. Now that I think about talking about eyes, is there anyone out there who's like, has anyone ever described someone saying, dude, they are very hot? Shit eyes though. I mean,
I can think of some people who are like, like generally attractive but have beady little rodent eyes, and I won't name any of them on this podcast, but I bet if you think hard enough you could think of at least one.
I probably could, but they're just not sticking out to me right now. Any famous people out there you're like, ooh, bad eyes, great?
No, I don't think you get to right, great jaw, terrible eyes. Yeah, I don't think they make it that far up. They don't make it to marquee status probably if you don't have good eyes.
Yeah, and then some people need to accept, look, if you're going to be on the big screen, they're going to want you to look good. At least you don't have to be amazing looking, but think about it, even character actors are pretty solid looking people.
Yeah, no, I know. Yes, it is true. Yep. And they always have, even if they have like weird features, they always have these like perfect teeth, perfect like white teeth, which is weird to me. Like, I want to like, if we could get enough people on board with this, like stop bleaching your teeth. It looks fucking weird. Teeth are yellow. And so you see like a 50-year-old man, and he smiles and his teeth are the color of like piano keys, and it just looks unnatural. Just like, stop doing it. Teeth are not white. And we're given this impossible standard of beauty that's just like, yeah, it's like someone went on Photoshop and like fucked with you. It doesn't look good.
There are some people whose teeth are ridiculously white, and it's clearly fake. Yeah, I understand that a little bit. They open their mouth and you're a bit like, ooh.
Yeah.
I respect good teeth though. My wife's got very white teeth. My teeth are all right, but like I brush them every day, but she's got some very white teeth that are natural. But yeah, I know what you mean, man, because there are some celebrities where you're just like, tone it the fuck down.
Yeah. Do you remember that show, The Swan, on Fox? It's about 10 years old. I didn't watch it, but I remember, I know the name of the show. At the time, like, it seemed like our sort of like Running Man moment, like the sort of like, it seemed like our civilization, like reaching its, the logical, its logical conclusion, where like this has to be the last thing before everything goes away. But it was like they'd have all these ugly people on, and they'd give them all plastic surgery, and then they'd have a beauty contest, and it was like really, really sick. But one thing they gave all of them, they'd say, okay, we're going to give you breast augmentation, liposuction, hair plugs. The one thing everyone got was Da Vinci veneers on that show. Everyone got Da Vinci veneers. And yeah, I mean, it gave them those like ridiculous Hollywood teeth that look super fake.
Wait, was this a reality show or a scripted show?
It was a reality show.
Oh my God. That's
it was
horrific.
Really, really sick reality show. Yeah.
I remember the name of a show called Swan, but I didn't know that was the premise.
Yeah, no, they
Damn.
took a bunch of ugly people and then gave them plastic surgery and then made them have a beauty contest.
God, you gotta
And
be. Wouldn't you feel horrible? I'm trying to, it's obvious to look at it from that person's perspective, but they wanted the plastic surgery, so of course they auditioned. But wouldn't you feel bad if you were the parents of one of those people and you're like, "Fuck, you think you're so ugly that you're going on this horrible show? You're a good person. So what if your mom and I weren't the best looking people and we couldn't make you good looking enough?" I don't know. I feel like that would hurt me a little bit.
yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know. Like people are just like want to be on TV. I don't even know. Maybe now it's different with social media. That was like before you could be an influencer or whatever. So like, yeah, people were just so fucking thirsty for fame. And then you'd like win, you'd be crowned the swan, and you'd win the trophy. If you won, they'd be like trying to cry, but they like didn't have any tear ducts because of the surgery. So it'd just be like fucking weird.
That's fucking hilarious, dude. I saw this thing earlier and I wanted to bring it up to you because it always makes me laugh. George Carlin, of course, one of the greatest comedians of all time. I feel like most people would agree upon that.
Yeah, he was all right.
He's all right. Every few months, one of his old jokes goes viral because it relates to something today.
Uh-huh.
And I noticed nobody ever, he's got all these great philosophical jokes that are social commentary and they're wonderful. But when is someone going to share one of his perverted fucking dick jokes? Because he has a million of those too. Mm-hmm. I think there's so many modern people who don't realize that half of George Carlin's act was, kind of like David Tell in a lot of ways. Like I think David Tell is an amazing comedian and a prolific joke writer, but for every like joke that's like a fucking cool, good point, like, that's societal related in a way, he's got a bunch of jokes about like jerking off on, his stomach and stuff like that. Like,
sure.
I think about this today because I had a moment that I lived a George Carlin joke. George Carlin has a joke where it's like, you ever notice you never sneeze while you're taking a piss because you'll blow out your asshole or whatever? Uh-huh. I did that today. I sneezed while taking a piss, and I got a little wild in the strike zone, but I didn't blow out my asshole. And I remember being like, why isn't that George Carlin clip going viral? But instead it's the one about how Republicans aren't really pro-life. You know what I mean? Like,
right,
come on, let's share it all.
That's funny. I have two things. First of all, I think David Tell is a great comic, obviously. I wouldn't put him in the same category, social commentary-wise, as George Carlin.
No, I guess he doesn't really do a lot
more of these women. You got to take it easy with these hand jobs. You're too rough. I feel like you're trying to pull a younger, more attractive version of me out of me, or whatever.
Yeah, you're right. I guess
it's a lot of those kinds of jokes. But with Carlin, I agree with you. There is a lot of just like dick and fart jokes. Although I think later on in his career it was less of that. But also, you see all these people sharing stuff about, like Republicans don't really care about women or, whatever, but you don't see people sharing on social media this stuff about how much he hates environmentalists or whatever, where he's got like a whole rant of like, oh, I hate these people, save the trees, save the flowers, save, he's like, fuck these people. So he has a lot of that shit too. He's not like partisan, he's just like
joke. He's got a joke about how people shouldn't vote. He was against voting.
Right.
He thought voting was stupid. He goes, I don't vote. You know what I mean? And his whole thing was like people who say like, you got to vote, you got to participate and all that. And he's wrong there. You should vote. So that's the thing too. Whenever I can admit Carlin's a really funny guy, but I don't hold everything he says like it's fucking gospel. That's what kills me about some celebrities when it comes to comedians and musicians. There are people who are so obsessed with them that it's like, well, Carlin said this. And I'm like, oh, okay. So you have to do it? Is that what you're talking about?
Right. Well, even the smartest people are wrong about lots of stuff.
Another Carlin thing, though, that got me a little annoyed was that, so the abortion joke is from his 1996 album that I think is Back in Town. I think that's the name of the album. And the opening joke, it opens with some guy playing a saxophone, but the first line out of his mouth got cut from the viral abortion joke because the joke's called abortion. It basically says like, if you're pre-born, they love you, but if you're preschooled, you're fucked. And he talks about like, if they're not really pro-life and all this shit. And he goes, they don't help you. As soon as you're out of if you're a fetus, they love you. As you're a baby, you're on your fucking own, all that. And it's a great joke. And there's a lot of really good points to it. But the opening line, that is such an amazing opening line, especially for a special. He opens, he goes, why What? The audience doesn't know where he's going with this. He goes, why is it that the people who are against abortion are people you want to fuck in the first place?
Mhm.
And, you know, that's a really good line, especially for 1996. And it does kill, but they cut that line out of the joke that's been shared all over the place. And I know it's because a bunch of people will be like, why is he ugly shaming people? Why is he, you know, I mean, like, I go, oh, you fucks. You couldn't even like let that little part in there. You had to like
You couldn't even
purify
leave
his
it in
joke.
the funny part.
The funniest part of the joke you had to let go.
Right. It reminds me of, you know, Jeff Asmus's abortion joke about, I'll fuck it up.
I don't know. It's an abortion joke though.
It's, oh God, I'll fuck it up, but it's really funny. It's just like talking about how, like, I mean, now the Texas law is a thing people are talking about, but I think at the time it was Alabama passed some really restrictive abortion law. And he's like, why is it that the states that pass these restrictive abortion laws are always the states where abortion should be mandatory?
Oh.
And he's like, everyone in Alabama looks like they survived an abortion.
That's a great joke. Yeah, he's hilarious, man. I've been doing a lot.
Dude, he's fucking great, man. He's so funny.
He is I got to get him on, actually.
Yeah, you should have him on. Yeah.
There's like a list of really funny comics in Chicago that when I see them, I'm like, fuck, I should have them on the podcast. And then when it comes time to booking the podcast, I forget. But yeah, Jeff's got to be on the top of the list now, man. That dude is really, really funny. Lebo, I want to do this thing with you called 5 Good Ones, in which I've been doing. I don't think when you were on the podcast last, I didn't do this with you.
No, last time I was on, the whole thing was a good one. But yeah, I mean, let's start now. Okay.
Yeah, I started doing a thing called 5 Good Ones about 4 or 5 months ago, maybe 6 months ago, which is kind of a fun way to end the podcast. So I've got these questions for you. I start a little obvious and then it gets sillier and whatnot. But here's your first one.
Okay.
First question of 5 good ones. What has been your favorite moment in your comedy career? I know it's a tough one, so you could take your time with it. You give me a couple even.
My favorite moment in my comedy career. Wow.
Some of these questions I should send in advance because they're a little loaded.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
besides doing this podcast.
Yeah, besides doing, well, obviously.
Was it being on a boat with James Vanderbeek?
No, it was not being on a boat with James Vanderbeek and not recognizing James Vanderbeek. I think maybe it was my my going away show at Timothy O'Toole's where I host headlined and tried to hang myself with my belt from the ceiling. I
was in LA.
I'll take that
show, but I heard it was pretty legendary.
Yeah, I don't really remember it very well, but I remember enjoying it.
So you hosted and headlined?
Yeah, I hosted it and I headlined it.
That's pretty
it was
fun.
It was just like a wild party. I mean, I think that those are always my favorite moments in general in stand up are like where I open my mouth and I don't know what's going to come out. And then, just like seeing what happens. And I mean, I think you probably do that too.
Yeah.
And so that show I think was probably mostly that. So I'll say that. And yeah,
that's a good answer. But no, it's another reason why people love watching you so much, because we don't know what we're going to get out of you. You know, I've seen you perform hundreds of times, and I still feel like, I'm never quite sure what I'm going to see. I'm like, he might take his shirt off, he might sit in someone's lap and eat their appetizer. You know what I mean? Or and then say one of the most craziest, coolest jokes I've ever heard too. And
I like the audience to be entertained, but also a little bit afraid.
Yes, it's never boring.
It's never safe, never quite safe. Yeah.
And you remind me, two of my favorite shows, these are probably 2 of my top 5. One would have been my going away show, moving from Chicago to LA. And then also on that list is my going away show, moving from LA back to Chicago.
Yeah. I guess the best parts of comedy are leaving where you are.
Yeah, both shows were incredible because I think both of them. I know the LA one, I started to write down a set list, and it was it was at the Improv. It was Community Show LA, and it was packed, like regular audience and a lot of comedian friends who were like, oh, it's Joe's last night, let's go hang out, which was really cool of everyone. And I love that. And I was thankful that they all came out. But I remember I started to write down my set list. And then as I was writing it down, I scratched it out, and I just wrote in big letters, as big as I can, who gives a fuck? because it's like, dude, what are you trying to do? Put together the perfect set? Why am I trying to formulate when I do greatest hits for, like, look, the audience, they're gonna whatever. I mean, it's not like I was playing to the back of the room, but I definitely thought to myself, just go up there. Who gives a shit? Kick the fucking doors in. Be funny. The audience who does never seen you before will love you for it, and then all your friends in the back will appreciate it too, because it shows you're just trying to have a good time and end on a high note. And it was awesome. It was one of those, you ever have one of those sets where people are texting you a few days later being like, hey, by the way, you were amazing last Thursday or whatever the hell.
Yeah.
Those feel the best. I had, because I did that show and then I got in the car and drove that back to Chicago like the next, supposed to leave in the morning, but I got so drunk that I left at like 6 p.m. at night. I was literally trying to hit there at 9 a.m. I left like, that's pretty bad when you're so drunk you leave 8 hours later than you're supposed to. I remember for the next couple days on the road, I'd be pumping gas and I'd get a text from someone being like, dude, that was fucking unbelievable. Again, I just want to tell you, I'm like, oh, I appreciate that, you know?
Yeah. I had one, like a few, I guess it was like 2 weeks after Esther was born. I think I opened for Lisa Traeger's album recordings shows at
Up.
At Up. Yeah, and that was one of those shows where I had people like texting me afterwards, like, wow, like you're really doing something you know different. Like it's really, that was amazing. I've never quite seen you like that. And it was, I think part of it was they were great shows, they were packed, they were hot crowds, but also like I just had this baby and I was just like, nothing fucking matters. Like this is not, I had a sort of important realization, I guess, about like, for those Room Just for Laughs used to do those shows in Chicago. I was doing like one of their big showcase nights or whatever, and I was backstage like putting the set list together and getting super, just like, oh, I have to have the perfect set. I have to have the perfect set. And then I just sort of had this realization where I was like, well, actually the only way I could fuck this up is by like being uptight. So, and then I just sort of like let everything go and just like went out and had fun. I mean, you just have to have fun. Those are the best moments, when you're just like having the most fun, right?
I think a lot of us realize that too. Like with the going away shows, you're like, hey, this is a party. If only we could be smart enough or good enough, whatever, to take that mentality to every set.
It just always be like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not.
Oh, you got to write a joke too. You got
to write a joke too. But I remember after my show, that at the LA show, Nick Vatterott said, probably should have been that guy the entire time you were here. Maybe you wouldn't be moving back. And not that I was moving back because of, not being able to hack it in LA. It was for family reasons, but it was really funny that he said that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember laughing my ass off when he said that. All right. Next question. Question number 2.
Second good one.
What is your favorite American city besides ones you've lived in? Or just favorite city? Why does it have to be American? I don't know why I wrote American city.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I mostly just know the American ones. Yeah, I mean, obviously Chicago is my favorite city, but if I have to pick a different one, I really like Cincinnati, actually. I don't know if I'm going to say it's my favorite city, but I always have a great time when I'm there. I really like where are places where it's weird. I used to go on the road, and like every town I would go to, I'd be like, yeah, I could live here. I'd always like picture myself living here. Oh yeah, Pittsburgh, not bad. But
I like Cincy and Pittsburgh. Those are good towns.
I like also like places like I think Ann Arbor is a great town. I like I'm sorry, Minneapolis. Minneapolis is my favorite city. That's not Chicago, I think. Yeah.
See, I've never spent long enough amount of time in Minneapolis to really kind of rank it, but from what I've heard, it's pretty great. I know a lot of people who love it.
It punches like way above its weight, like just like in terms of the arts. For how many people live there, it just has like too many good comedians, too many good musicians, too many good artists. It's Minneapolis is badass.
Nice. Question number 3. How old were you? And you don't have to answer this, I should say, but I think you will. At what age did you lose your virginity?
I think I was 17.
It's good. It's solid. It's probably, what's that, the average age? Probably 17?
Yeah, or 16. Oh, yeah, I was 17. Yeah.
Very
Yeah, I don't
good.
know. I don't know if it's average or not, but was what I did.
And did you orgasm?
Yeah, like almost immediately.
Okay, good job. Just want to make sure
Yeah.
you had. I just want to make sure you got pleasure out of it, Lebo.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I maybe left her a little disappointed, but it really wasn't about her.
Oh, it's with
So,
a woman. Okay, surprising.
well,
Just being
someone
an
who uses
asshole.
female pronouns anyway.
Oh, okay, all right. If you could have any superpower, what superpower would you have?
I could have,
Standard dork guy question.
yeah. If I could have any superpower, what superpower would I have? Um, I think that I would be I, I don't know, control, read people's thoughts.
Professor X shit. I like it. Yeah, reading people's thoughts would be pretty good. What about? I'd like to control them. Maybe that feels psychotic though.
I
Like
almost said that, and then I was like, why would I want that? Only a monster would want to
I
control
mean,
other
reading their
people.
thoughts though. That's.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like it would just, you'd have to be able to turn it off when you wanted to.
Yeah, as
To
long
just
as you
like
could turn it
always
off.
be hearing people's thoughts all the time.
Well, that's like in the comic books, Professor Xavier and Jean Grey, they both had that power. They'd go nuts because they all the voices in their head constantly because they couldn't, sometimes they couldn't turn it off. But if you could control it where you could only hear it if you want to hear it, like if you really
Yeah.
if you say, hey, honestly, what do you think of Mike? And then you turn it on because then you could hear what they honestly think instead of them being like, oh yeah, he's a good guy. I think it's cute that he's smelly. But really you hear what they really think, which is like, I secretly am in love with him and want to hold him in my arms forever.
Right.
And then you're like, and then I later tell you, hey, guess what? Danny over here wants to bone you,
Mm-hmm.
I still lie, even though I know the truth.
I also think it would be, I might have to take this answer back because I think it would be, yeah, I mean, just to like hear them all the time if you can't turn it off, you just hear a lot of like, why did I say that to the barista? I'm such an idiot. You would just like hear people just like constantly questioning and doubting themselves all the time, and it would be kind of a bummer. I want to fly. That's just, I wish I could fly. That's way better.
Flying's pretty good. I'm gonna, I don't have to give my answer. This is about you, Lebo. But yes, flying is always a standard one, right?
Yeah.
You could save a lot of airfare.
Yeah,
all right,
just think
number
it'd be so
5.
fun. Yeah.
And it would be fun.
Yeah.
Birds have a pretty sweet deal. Plus, as a grown man flying, how much fun would it be to shit in midair?
Yeah, and like on your enemies from above.
That's your superpower.
See, what you got to do is hook up with somebody who can hear people's thoughts, and they find out who really thinks that who's super phony and thinks you're a piece of shit. And then you fly up above, you take a big steaming dump on their head. You eat Chipotle first, so it's like diarrhea, and then you fly right over them, and
and then you fly so fast they don't know who did it. They just think they're cursed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
good. I like that.
Or you could even train people. If you had your friend who could read people's thoughts, you could time it so that like every time they're thinking negative things about you, they get a whole bunch of diarrhea from the sky, and so that would just like B.F. Skinner behaviorism sort of like train them not to think that way anymore. So
imagine being that person being like, "This is the 4th time today I've gotten shit out."
I should stop thinking bad things and wishing bad things for Lebo.
And they would know the difference because bird poop is like white. Human poop, they would know. They'd be like, what is this, some kind of hawk up there? They would think airlines are dumping shit on me.
Why is there human diarrhea falling from the sky?
I love it, man. We got to make that an animated series.
Human diarrhea from the sky. Yeah.
Fuck yeah. All right. Question number 5.
All right.
What, if you could party with any celebrity, that could be, you could do 2. You could do alive and dead, or just give me one answer. What celebrity would you want to party with?
Oh, party. I don't really party that much.
Yeah, you're not a partier anymore, are you? You've tamed down a little bit.
Yeah, I stopped. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I kind of don't do anything.
You've been vaping like the whole time. You don't smoke? That's just vape?
Well, this is nicotine. I mean, I don't smoke weed. Okay. Yeah. No, I'm horribly addicted to nicotine. Who would I party with? Celebrities? I don't know. It's like I kind of don't care. I guess.
Well, historical figure then.
Yeah. But I mean, the answer that popped into my head was David Berman from the Silver Jews. So I'll just stick with that. But you know what? No, in honor of let's go with Michael K. Williams, because he just passed away.
Michael
And
Caine?
no, wait, what's his name? Michael K. Williams? Michael T.
Oh
Williams.
yeah. Oh, I'm
Michael
sorry. Yeah. Oh,
K.
that's right.
Is
Yeah,
it K
Michael
or
K.
T?
Williams.
Michael K. Williams just died. Omar from The Wire.
Omar from The Wire.
He was a
Yeah,
super
that's sad.
inspiring dude, and he just passed away. And he seemed like he had a really solid outlook on life and really insightful. So I bet you could have some really good conversations with him. And we just lost him, so I'll pick him, Michael K. Williams.
Yeah, was that drug related too?
I think so. I mean, they haven't announced that, but I think so. He had been sober for a long time, and who knows? Maybe it wasn't. But
Well, sadly, that is really what happens. Is that like a lot of people get sober, and then when they relapse, they do the amount of drugs that they used to be able to handle, but they can't handle anymore, and then that's usually what a lot of the ODs are.
right, that's what happened to what was that British singer lady with the makeup and what's her name? Who died?
Amy. No, what was her name? Amy Winehouse.
That's the one. Yeah, Amy Winehouse.
I like how you described her. I wanted to. Did you hear about? There were some comedians out in LA, and they were late cocaine. Fentanyl was laced in the cocaine or whatever. Kate Quigley, who I know pretty well enough, where when I lived in LA, when I'd see her, I'd be like, "Hey, Kate, what's up?" You know, she is doing better from what I just heard on Twitter, so that's good news there. But RIP to the Fuquan. I feel bad because now I'm forgetting his last name. This is a horrible way to do a tribute to someone who just died. But I was going to say, you know, horrible that he passed away. I didn't know him, but I know people who said he was such a great guy. You know, I don't know. I'm not going to be some guy that tells people don't do drugs, but really, let's be smart out there, everybody. Like, it's just, I've never gotten the appeal of cocaine. It just feels like it gets you all jacked up. Like, how about
no? I mean, I get it. I get the appeal of cocaine. I mean, like that's like, I used to really like cocaine, and like, I mean, that's like, yeah. I mean, it's pretty awesome. Like, what happens? Like, you rip a huge line and you don't feel anything, but then like immediately you want more. I mean, it's just like the best feeling. Where like, yeah, you get no real high, but you just think like, oh, I should do more, and then more, and then more. Yeah, it's like the worst drug. Cocaine is like the worst drug.
Well, I mean, what you described sounds awesome, but I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty good. But I don't know. I'm just one of those guys that's just, I've never been appealed by uppers for whatever reason. I mean, I have a heart thing, so that kind of scares me, but it's also it's also just, I don't know. I just feels like I like the stuff that chills you out more. You know,
but cocaine, see, the appeal of cocaine is that like it allows you to keep drinking. So like, if you have a cocaine problem and you want to stop doing cocaine, I think the best way to do it is to stop drinking. Because like, I've definitely like never said like, hey, let's get some cocaine if I hadn't had at least a drink or two first.
Definitely. No, alcohol is the gateway drug. Marijuana being the gateway drug is the biggest bullshit lie we've ever been told, ever, because everything starts with alcohol. You know, literally.
Yeah. Jack Comstock. Do you know Jack Comstock? He's a comic in New York. He helps run the Saturday Comedians You Should Know shows that we're doing here. He's great. Nice. But he has a joke how he's like, they say marijuana is a gateway drug, but I tried acid first. Turns out whatever drug you try first, that's the gate. They're all
right.
Great. Yeah, it's like
it's definitely, that's the way that goes. That's true. I mean, in the same regard though, nobody tries heroin first. Right? That's pretty unlikely.
Did you know that heroin is a brand name that was originally trademarked to the Bayer Corporation? They developed it as a pharmaceutical like 100 years ago as an alternative to morphine. Yeah, it's like it was invented by a pharmaceutical company. So there you go.
That part, that doesn't surprise me, but I didn't know it was like a trademark name and all that. Morphine, I had when I broke my leg. That shit's all right. That was good. I remember being really good on that.
Yeah, my back was fucked up and I was doing some Percocets for a while. And like, and then it was like a little bit hard to stop doing them. But, I did. and I'm glad I did. But like, you can see how you can get really deep into that shit, and it's just very difficult.
Now, some
Stop.
drugs you just avoid. I know someone they prescribed oxy to them when they had pain, and they're like, "Fuck that." I know all about how people get hooked on this shit. I'm not gonna
Oh,
bother.
I'd go to this like pain clinic when I had my back problem, and I'd be sitting in the waiting room. It was like the most depressing thing in the world, because like everyone else in there is just like complaining about how like the doctor won't give them enough pills. They're all just there for their pills. It was like this total pill mill. I was like, I need to get the fuck out of this clinic immediately. And I just didn't come back.
Yeah, well, smart move, man. By the way, the comedian's name was Fuquan Johnson. Everybody, I feel sorry that I didn't have it right off the top of my head. R.I.P. to him. There are 2 other people whose names aren't public that died. There was 4 comedians who, did some cocaine together at a party, and whoever they got it from laced it with fentanyl. And I don't understand these fucking dealers who do shit like that.
It's like, if you're going to lace cocaine, do it with like an amphetamine or something that sends you in the same direction.
Yeah, why are you doing it in a way that's risking your customers? And 3 of the 4 people died. Kate Quigley, thankfully, is doing better. I see she's responding to tweets. She'd been in the hospital, and it was real touch and go. So
God, that's
very,
such a
very
fucking
happy
nightmare.
Kate's all right.
Yeah.
Sorry, was that
yeah.
Lebo?
I said that's such a nightmare that
A
happened.
total nightmare. And that's been happening a lot. That's been going around. I've been reading about that. A lot of these fucking dealers are doing that shit, which is just, it's a fucking prick move. Yeah. So anyway, be careful out there, everyone. That's the message at the end of this episode of the Joe Kilgallon podcast. And it's good to be back. Lebo, thank you so much for being on the pod. It's always fun talking to you. I can talk to you about fucking anything and everything, and it feels like it's going to be fun and interesting.
Hell yeah.
Tell the people where they can find you, Lebo.
They can find me at mikelebovitz.net. They can find my album, Two Slob Household, wherever they stream comedy stuff. I will be headlining the Planet of the Tapes in Louisville, Kentucky this weekend. So if you live in the Louisville area, you can find me there in person. So
that's awesome. Hell yeah, dude. Check out Lebo in Louisville. That's a fun town. I got to get down there.
Louisville's a great town, yeah.
It is, right? All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the Joe Kilgallon podcast. Treat yourselves well. Take care of yourselves. And as always, cheers.